All right, looks like I am on live right now. Good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, depending on where you are, wherever you are. If you're watching right now, well, thank you for joining. Welcome. And for those of you who are new to this video, my channel, if you've never met me, if you've never seen my videos, and my name is Taro Iwamoto. I'm a Feldenkrais practitioner. And then on my YouTube channel, I share videos of and movement strategies and movement tips and lessons and exercises that improve your functions. And today, 2 weeks ago, I did a lesson on optimal breathing. And so today's lesson is a continuation from the last theme in the optimal breathing. And this is a number two. So if you missed the first one, it really doesn't matter. But if you're curious and then would like to watch the previous lesson, and I put the link down below so you can watch it later anytime. And just like the last lesson and all the other my live lessons, this lesson is being recorded and it will be available to you. So if you miss it or you can only participate a part of the lesson, and that'll be still fine, and you can access it anytime later. You can use the same link. And if you like the lesson, and please share it with your friends and family or anyone, okay? All right, so we're going to go ahead and get started. So what you're going to need for this lesson, just like the last time, chair, comfortable chair. With probably no armrest would be preferred, but if you got armrest chair, and that'll work fine too. Just a nice firm chair. And so we're going to go ahead, start, and we're going to explore movements. And then, just like the last time, exploring the movement and then subtle movements, and you're going to observe changes in the quality of the breathing. And as you are expanding your movement patterns and expanding the movement awareness, and you're going to observe and take note how that is going to influence quality of the breathing, how you're breathing, and the ease of the breathing, and so forth. So anyways, let me put my phone down, and if you are ready, and go ahead and sit on the chair. And if you got the back rest, so you're going to scoot yourself forward a tiny bit, so you're not leaning against the back rest. So just sitting slightly more the front of the chair. And you don't have to try to correct your posture or anything, okay? Just because you are doing the lesson in sitting, and just because you are maybe aware of your posture already, but just trying to be as natural as you can be, as comfortable you can be. So as you're sitting and comfortably, and just you can close your eyes for a moment and observe your sit bones. So notice your sit bones, where you're sitting on your sit bones. If you did the last lesson, and can you recall how you were sitting in the beginning and how you're sitting at the end of the lesson? And right now, how does that compare to the contact last time and today? And how is it? Where are you sitting? Do you find the same support as the last time, or you're sitting on a slightly different place? And so observe the weight distribution on your sit bones, front and the back. Can you sense that you are sensing, or you're sitting more towards the front of the sit bones, or do you sense yourself in sitting more towards the towards the back of the sit bones? And don't change, and stay where you are. Observe how you're sitting habitually, okay? It's not a bad thing. It is just observing how you sit normally, you're comfortably. And can you also take a note of the shape of the spine, as if I'm looking from the side, and is there curvature, and is it a flat, is it slightly slouch, rounded? And so observe the shape of the spine. And if you like, you can put your hand and you can feel the shape, and then you can check what you're sensing, how you're sensing, and then also how you actually feel with your hands. And you may be surprised that there is quite a bit of difference, what you thought that how the shape of the spine felt for you, and then when you actually check with your hand, and it may be quite different, or maybe pretty close. And then continue to scan the shape of the spine to the mid back and then the upper back. And notice how the shape and changes. And well, individually, I mean, it is different, right? So everyone's different. My sitting and structures and posture is different from yours. And yours is different from anybody else. And so don't be judgmental, just observe neutrally. And what's the shape? And then moving up to the neck, upper spine, upper thoracic spine to the neck, and then how the shape changes. And then feel the head. Where is the head in sitting? And the relationship between the head and your sit bones. Do you notice the head is more towards the right hip, more towards the left hip, or roughly right in between two sit bones? And notice that. And then bring your attention back to your sit bones. So can you sense that you are sitting and leaning more towards the one side than the other side? So take a quick moment and to notice that. And then now starts to bring attention to your breathing. So what's the quality of the breathing right now? Don't take a deep breath, normal breathing. What parts of your body do you feel that are moving, participating in breathing? What part do you notice the most? Is it your belly? Is it your ribcage? Is it your back? Is it your chest? What part of the chest? Front and the side and the back. So there's so many parts that you can pay attention to, but you probably wouldn't even notice until you start to pay attention to how they're moving, how they're participating in response to your breathing. So observe how the body is moving, and there may be some parts that are moving more and some parts that are not maybe participating quite as much. Don't make it participate. Leave it, observe it. And between the right side and the left side of yourself. So how does the right side is moving, participating in breathing? And then bring attention to the left side. And notice the difference. Is it one side participating more? Is it moving more? Or can you sense that movement more clearly on one side than the other side? And by the way, if you get uncomfortable, you can stop and pause and stand up and do whatever you need to do. I'm doing my own pace and I'm trying to slow down, not too fast, but it may be a little too fast for you, some of you. If that's the case, I encourage you to pay attention to your own pace, and then you can always pace yourself because, like I said, it is being recorded, so you can watch it later, and you can pause and do it at your own pace. So don't feel like you have to keep up with the same pace that I'm teaching you or guiding you right now. So now what we're going to do, we're going to shift your weight over to the right side, or right sit bone. So you're going to lightly lift your left sit bone. So transfer the weight over to the right side so you can feel, not a big movement. Okay? You don't have to lift that much. Just slightly shift your weight over to the right side. Okay, and then let go and come back. So just do a few times and then shifting the weight ever so slightly to the right side from the middle, or whatever the middle is for you, and come back to the middle. Shift your weight over to the right side. And there. So as you shift your weight over to the right side, and pay attention to your feet. And do you move your feet? Do you raise your heel one side? How do you use your feet? Is there any changes in weight shifting and the contact of your feet? And can you, if possible, then see if you can actually press your left foot to shift your weight to the right side. so that you can actually push your left foot and then use that ground to move you, to shift your weight to the right side. It doesn't take hardly any effort. Lightly push, and then that's going to shift your weight over to the right side. And then let go. Okay, and you can leave that. And now switch over to the other side. You're going to shift your weight over to the left side. Don't make an effort. And do you notice this is the harder side? Do you notice this is the easier side? So, and this question is really, really helpful for you because the easier side, the side that it feels more natural, more familiar, is the side, oftentimes it is an habitual movement pattern. And that's why it feels easier and natural, right? So if it feels easier to shift your weight over to the left side, then I think that your habitual tendency is to shift your weight and sit more over to the left side, more easily. Okay. Then again, notice how you're using your leg and how you can use your legs and to press your right foot lightly and to shift your weight over to the left side. So just to getting used to shifting the weight over to the left side and then coming back to the middle. Now if it is super difficult, awkward, and the natural tendency is for everyone and is to want to work harder to make it move more. Okay, and then you're going to pause and you're going to slow down and leave it. And then you're going to reduce the effort and try to move even more slowly and use less effort to make it easier. It sounds kind of strange, but it works. So we're going to try that a few times. Okay, and return to the middle. And notice, by the way, when you return to the middle, are you sitting in the same place as you started in the beginning? Or you find yourself that sitting in a slightly different place? Doesn't have to be. You may find that it is exactly the same, absolutely no change, and that's fine too. Asking the question, and so that you can pay attention to notice something. Okay, and then going back to shifting the weight over to the right side. Again, using your left foot. Press your left foot, shift your weight, tiny bit over to the right side. So you feel the right sit bone is getting heavier, pressing more into the stool, chair. At the same time, the left side of the sit bones becomes lighter, barely touching, okay? Barely putting weight on the stool. And starts to pay attention to your spine. So how does the spine respond to the shift in weight? And how does the head respond to the shift in weight? And notice how the head goes and which direction is the head goes for you. Is your head going in the same direction as your pelvis so that everything is kind of leaning over to the right side? Or do you find that the head is actually shifting and tilting in opposite directions? Okay, so for me, my head wants to tilt to the left side. So now try, maybe this is already how you're starting, but as you shift your weight over to the right side and allowing the head and letting your head to tilt, you're not forcing it to turn, just let it tilt. Now as you shift your weight over to the right side and then coming back. So observe how that movement is going to invite the spine to participate a little bit differently. Shifting away over to the right side, allowing the head to tilt to the left side a little bit. Can you sense the curving of the spine? And can you sense the left side of your spine is getting shorter and right side of the spine is getting longer? But you shouldn't really feel an effort. And if you feel an effort, you're doing too much. Please do less. Or if you can't figure that out, doesn't make sense, don't get frustrated, just leave it. Do what feels right for you. Observe, nonetheless. Here and back. Okay, so the next time you go to the right side, letting your head tilt to the left and stay there. So you can observe, okay, the changes in the shape. Notice the left side is shorter. Notice the right side is longer. Feel the left side of the rib cage and feel the right side of the rib cage. And how does that feel for you? Does that feel familiar? Does that feel unfamiliar? Again, this question helps you to recognize what's your habitual tendency of the patterns. Okay, and stay there and then observe now your breathing. So how does that influence the quality of the breathing? How does it change? It feels different. Your body participates in a different way than when you're sitting in your neutral place. Right? There's some parts that are harder to move. There's some parts that are a little easier to move. So take a notice and observe the parts that are easier to move. And then if you are trying to fight it and trying to move the breath into the area that is harder to go into, leave it. Allow the breath to go into the easier place. You may find that the right side is easier to move. As the breath goes in, it expands even more. And then as the breath leaves your body, it gets a little shorter. And come back to the middle. Right, stay in the middle and rest. Observe your breathing in your neutral place. How did that change your breathing? Just from doing what you did, exploring the movements, observing your breath, your breathing. Did that change how your body participates in breathing? Does that change the ease of the breathing? What happens? So now going to the opposite directions. Going to press your right foot lightly into the ground and to shift your weight tiny bit to the left side. So the left sit bone becomes heavier. And your right sit bone becomes lighter without force. So first question, how does that feel? How smooth? Smoother than the other side? Does that feel more natural? Does that feel more comfortable? Or the other way? Question of, is this possibly your habitual direction or is this non-habitual direction? Okay, and then come on back. And the next time you shift your weight over to the left side and allowing your head to tilt to the right side. But don't stretch it, okay? You don't force the head to turn or tilt. You just let it tilt. So now stay in that position, configuration, and observe the shape of yourself, the spine. Which side is shorter now? Is this shape more familiar to you? This shape less familiar to you? We all have habitual bias, right? And maybe for some people, this is quite easy, natural, because constantly shifting weight over to the left side. So that brings into these patterns. And then, so the breathing here feels quite easy, normal, comfortable. But if this is not your habitual direction, habitual movement, and then you now observe your breathing in this configuration and notice the quality of the breathing. You may first find that it is harder, you feel more restricted in your breathing. But good thing is, the nervous system is smart. It's going to do the job for you. So it's not your job trying to figure out how to move yourself and how to direct your breath or anything like that. Simply, what I'm going to ask you to do is just stay there if you're comfortable there, and then observe your breathing, the quality of the movement of yourself. So what parts are moving? You feel the left side and how the left side is expanding as you're inhaling. Then as you exhale, what happens to the shape? And notice the right side of your rib cage and the spine. And how is it responding? You may find that it is a little harder to move because of this specific position. This is a constraint, right? Which means instead of trying to fight it, breathe, breathe, breathe into this side. Maybe that is easier to just allowing your breath to find and move into the left side more so that it can move a little more easily. And come on back to the middle, right? Now you are in the middle, and you can just shift your weight slightly forward and back. Gently rock your pelvis forward and back a few times, and gently rock your pelvis or shift your weight left and right side. Gently. And make the movement smaller and smaller until you come to a pause and stop. And stay in the middle. So notice your sitting posture right now, and notice where you're sitting on your sit bones. Do you find the support a little bit differently? Do you feel more stable? Do you feel more balanced? And what about the weight distribution between the two sides of yourself, left and right side? So how you are finding your support right now, and how you're distributing the weight between the two sides. Not because you are consciously trying to be in the middle, but maybe what you experience and what you explore through these gentle movements, moving yourself in a slightly different way, habitual direction, and also the non-habitual directions. And how does that change how you're sitting naturally? That maybe changes how you're sitting right now, and how does that change the shape of your spine? And where's the head in relation to your pelvis? Is the head still in the same place, or do you feel the head is more supported from underneath your spine and the pelvis? So now finally, observe your breathing. Okay, so it's only about 17-minute short awareness movement lesson. All right, all you did, observing your breathing, observing your sitting, and then changing, shifting the weight slightly over here, and then you're bringing attention to a different parts and notice how that impacts and influences the shape of yourself, and then you observe also how that influences your breathing and how the body moves and participates in breathing, right? And by doing that, then now you come back to the sitting and changes, and notice the changes. Okay, so once again, what you did is you're not really trying to correct your breathing. And the way that you optimize your breathing is by expanding movement awareness and movement patterns, right? So that's what we did, explore the movements, and then letting your nervous system, informing your nervous system of all those maybe new possibilities. Some that you already do, the habitual patterns that it knows really well, but by doing it even more, letting you know that, oh yeah, I know this pattern really, really well. What about going the other way? It's not that habitual directions, what you're doing is bad or anything. It is just letting you know, reminding yourself, oh yeah, this is how I use myself more often. What about, do I have alternatives, to have different options? Could I move here? And then you start to use yourself more and more in a different way. And then that allows the nervous system to find and optimize the breathing in the different places, in the different postures and movements. So that's it for this lesson. I hope that you find this lesson helpful and enjoyable. And if you do have any questions, and you can leave the comments in the comment section below. And also remind you that if you missed the first lesson, Optimal Breathing number 1, similar ideas and exploring the movements in a slightly different plane. And I put the link down below so you can watch it anytime. And then this is recorded right now, and then it's going to be available for you to watch later, anytime. All right. Well, thank you very much for participating. And then if you're new to my channel, and if you have not subscribed to my channel yet, and please consider subscribing to my channel. And if you like this video and like this lesson, and please give me a like. All right. Well, thank you so much for your participation again, and have a wonderful day and happy mindful movement. Bye-bye.